Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the backstory. If you're new here, kindly hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down below so that you can be notified whenever we post a new video. Now, ladies and gentlemen, today ACK Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit, who is a very close ally of President William Ruto, has made a call that can be viewed differently from different political affiliations. The guys who are affiliated to President William Ruto are saying that he's made a very good call, that he has echoed what the Gen Zs have been talking about. And there are guys who are in the opposition who are also saying that whatever calling that he has made is skewed in a way that it is not favoring the opposition. So I want us to listen in.
We have already declared, and we want to declare today, that giving in the Anglican Church will not be announced. Just give as God directs you to give. For what we give to God, we don't have to tell human beings what we have given him. We ask now the teams that have been given opportunity to come forward. The rest will be giving in the tents and in the boxes that are designated. When the time comes for acknowledging all those who have come, we will do that. But also I want to give direction that from today on henceforth, in any Anglican congregation, and I thank God my bishops are here, there will be no opportunity for any political leader to have a speech in the church. We will mention their names, they will wave their hands, and if they so wish to speak to the congregants, it will be done outside of the sanctuary. And not only today, but in all our dioceses and in all our churches. May God bless you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, in the run-up to the Gen Z's demonstrations, if you remember, some of the issues that were raised by Gen Zs was the fact that they wanted politicians to stop addressing congregations in churches, because that is where politicians used to spew a lot of negativity, and they would use that platform to hoodwink congregants by giving out money. Someone would come out and say how much he has raised, how much he has given to the church, and this would endear them to congregants to make them feel like they are these saints who are charitable enough, and this somehow made them have favor with the congregants. And Jesus talked about this. But Ole Sapit's calling today, where he said that ACK will not allow politicians to be given an opportunity to talk to congregants or address congregants in ACK churches, has raised a lot of emotions. Just as I said earlier, there are people who view this as a bold step, because politicians have always taken advantage of Kenyans, just as we've talked about this. But the question that comes to mind is, will this apply to all politicians? Will it apply to the president? Will it apply to the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga? Because you remember why this communication is somehow controversial is the fact that Ole Sapit made a similar kind of calling in 2022 when we are heading to the general election. The former Prime Minister and Musalia Mudavadi had been invited for a function that was in Butere, if I'm not wrong. And Ole Sapit made a similar call, and on that day, he did not allow the former Prime Minister and Musalia Mudavadi to talk to the congregants. Then there was uproar. And then thereafter, what happened? We went back to allowing politicians back to the pulpit. And if you look at what has been happening, even in ACK churches, politicians have been addressing congregants. They've been turning the pulpit into a political rally. So how will they enforce this? Or is it something that is being used by the church, that is SEK, so as to kind of dim the lights of other politicians. It's something that, for me, I think is a bold step that needs to be emulated by all churches. But it should not be just for a specific group of politicians. Remember, in 2021, I remember the Catholic Church also made a similar call. And they said they were not going to allow politicians to be turning the pulpits into political rallies. So ideally, that is what's supposed to be. If you look at how former President Mwai Kibaki and even the former President Moi used to do all this when they went to churches, they would not address the congregants. They'll just give out their offerings, pray together with the congregants, and then get an opportunity outside the church to address their followers. But these bad habits started during the former President Uhuru Kenyatta's regime, and they were together with his deputy, who is now the current president, President Ruto. And it has become a norm. But we need to come to a point whereby we stop this. We need to come to a point whereby we stop it. And when we are stopping it, it should not be for a specific class of politicians, like let's say for the opposition only. It should be for all politicians, and not to SEK alone, but to all other churches. But the problem with our churches right now is that we give prominence to politicians because they get this opportunity to dish out money in terms of harambe, and whoever gives more is given an opportunity to continue coming to those churches to give out money. And whatever Ole Sapit has talked about, I think you need to give out depending on what you feel. You don't need to show off and tell people how much you have given. But Ole Sapit's calling also raised a lot of controversies, because so many people view Ole Sapit as being close to the President William Ruto. You remember during Gen Z's demonstrations, he was among the people who were seen to be trying to quell the violence, and at some point, people became very restless and never wanted to hear from him. And even during the last general election, which is in 2022, Ole Sapit was involved in a lot of shuttle diplomacy between former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, the current President William Ruto, and he was even seen at bombers of Kenya trying to tell Kenyans to calm down. It was like he was vouching for the current president. So whatever he's doing right now might not be seen as if he's kind of impartial, but he might be seen as someone who is trying to still vote for the president, so that whoever is against the policies of the government, whoever might find an opportunity to address congregants or address Kenyans is kind of silenced in a way. So Ole Sapit and the religious leaders need to come out openly as a caucus and stamp their authority and tell politicians that enough is enough. We have a country here to run, and we're not going to turn the pulpits into political rallies. But if they only do it to a selected few politicians, then that is where now they are seen as being biased in their decisions that they are making. But one funny thing is that they've made that decision today, but come next Sunday, you'll still see some politicians in those SEK churches politicking. And sometimes not even that SEK church, another church altogether. Because politicians are also crafty. They have pastors that are very close to them because of the money kind of relationship that they have. But I think it's something that it's a calling that should be made by all religious leaders. Politicians do take a lot of time during services. They are given close to 2 hours to just politic. So when is the time for the service and when is the time for politics? So that is why now we need to come up with a policy, or the religious caucus should now come up with a policy that they are not going to allow politicians into their churches. So ladies and gentlemen, it's something that we're still going to monitor as we move into the next week, so that we're able to tell that was it something that was being made only for the likes of Rigathi Gachagua and Kalonzo Musyoka, or is it something that is going to tame the appetite of politicians from addressing congregants? But if it boils down to all churches, all religious leaders not giving politicians a platform, then I think this is going to be a plus as we head into 2027. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, kindly hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down below so that you can be notified whenever we post a new video. Until next time, bye-bye.